Well, we are back inside Bella the Boler, and since I already told you in a previous video camping season was over for us, that means only one thing: more Boler repairs, and this promises to be our most involved yet. Let's go. Alright, so I had mentioned in a previous video that the door lock on Bella broke. And of course, the Bargman L400 has been discontinued for a long time. So we bought a replacement from campingtreasures.com. Not sponsored.
Yes, so thankfully, this is a common problem. So thankfully, Mr. Ian Giles has a little repair kit. So basically what we're going to do is replace the Bargman lock with the newer style Bower chrome lock, which will not fit in the hole. So the big thing here is that he manufactures these face plates. So the lock itself is going to seat in here and cover up the old hole from the longer, more rectangular L400. So you get the lock itself, the plate, all of the hardware, and here some little weather stripping, rivets. There's the strike plates, and most importantly, instructions. Oh, and that's so nice, a little Boler pin. Thanks, Ian, if you're watching this.
In addition to the printed instructions, I also have a copy of the instructions here on the tablet from his website, so that we do have a backup as well. Plus, it has links to some videos if we get ourselves really stuck and need to see how it's done. And in addition to the stuff from campingtreasures.com, we also have a bunch of supplies we needed to purchase from, guess what, Canadian Tire. And again, not sponsored, and that counts as one Canadian Tire trip, so hopefully there's only one more before it becomes an official DroneOCan project.
So in our bag of Canadian Tire goodies, we have a cutoff tool, which this is a little bit scary because installing this does mean that we do need to cut into Bella's fiberglass. So cross your fingers, everything goes smoothly for us. But that's why we have a cutting wheel tool. We have a rivet gun. A jigsaw blade. We actually already have the jigsaw, just needed the blade. Then we have some chemicals, some acetone to clean the surface of the plate.
And you know it's never good when DroneOCan is playing with things that are both flammable and poisonous.
Yes, and some self-etching primer so that we can prime the face plates and then paint them cream to match. And of course some gloves because we're playing with chemicals, and we'll also be wearing safety goggles.
All right, so step one is painting the aluminum adapter plates. So as it says in the instructions, you can either leave them chrome or paint them. In the sample instructions here, they're painting them white. As Emily mentioned, we're going to paint them cream colored to kind of match the outside of Bella. So there's going to be some sanding involved and some priming with an etching primer or a primer specifically geared for aluminum, and then paint with a quality paint. All right, so first step, we're peeling the protective film from the
Very satisfying.
from the lock adapter plate cover things. Like all good Boler repairs, we're using the tailgate of our truck as a workbench, since I don't have an actual proper workbench in the garage. And my job, while Emily is scratching up the surface of the locks, is to keep shaking the self-etching primer paint. So now, having carefully, air quotes, masked off the tailgate of the truck, we are prepared to begin the painting. So there we go. We have a coat of primer on those now. And according to the instructions on the can of paint, it says they'll be ready to handle in about an hour or so, which is fine because we have a whole bunch of other stuff to do in the meantime. Next step is to remove the original lock. So here's a look at the interior of the original Bargman L400. Discontinued since about 2004. There's the exterior. On the original lock, remove the 2 screws attaching the interior plate and handle. Pull the handle and plate straight out. Some minor wiggling that may be needed to free the shaft. Pull the handle and plate straight out. Some minor wiggling may be required to free the shaft. Oh, okay. That, so far, so good. So now the screws holding this.
1 screw, that's a rivet. Might need to drill that.
Okay, well, immediately things just got more complicated. I mean, having put the initial disclaimer in about safety first, goggle up. Oh, that's a great look. So, of course, I came along and DroneOCan'd it and just grabbed the plate and snapped it off with my hands, leaving this little bit of a rivet still in there. I guess we'll find out in a bit whether or not that's an issue. Next step is to get some masking tape along the edge of the door and mark the spots where the current door assembly is sitting. Again, precision work, that's why she's doing it and I'm just filming.
Not sealed at all.
So yeah, next step now is we remove the outer portion of this assembly by applying gentle pressure to break the seal, which should be held in place by butyl tape. And there we go. Likely the first time the inside of that door has seen the light of day since 1978. And just to prove things in the RV industry haven't changed a lot, you can see it's kind of shimmed in there with a couple pieces of wood and a bunch of construction debris. Thank you, Neonex. So our next step now is to get the acetone. We've cleaned out all that debris. Now we're working on removing any of the remaining sealant or other goo from both the inside and the outside of the lock area. Next step is to mask off both the inside and outside of the door. 2 reasons. Number 1 is it's going to protect the fiberglass and keep it from splintering when we start drilling holes. And it also is going to serve as a place where we get to mark where we have to drill into the door for the installation of the new lock. Okay, so our next step now is we put the inner adapter plate up tight against the door, right where, lining it up with those marks that we made when we took the old one out, and then trace around the inside of the new lock opening. So there's a look at how it looks now with our markings on it. This is the big moment. As I mentioned in previous videos, every project has the DroneOCan point. And that is the place, or the DroneOCan line, where once you cross over it, there's no coming back. And we have reached that point now because we're about to start actually drilling out, and by we, I mean Emily, the holes that we're going to use to then cut out the new lock opening. So my job will be to steady the door and hold it steady while Emily makes our first hole in Bella, and hope for the best. Here we go.
We're getting there.
All right, dust masks. Kind of forgot those. Resuming where we left off. There we go.
I see daylight.
Hole number 1.
Oh boy.
And here's where we'll let you just kind of, or we'll skip ahead on your behalf and get you to the point where we've got all 4 holes drilled. So a little bit of a challenge for us. You can see these bottom holes where we needed to drill them. Basically, were just right at the bottom of our opening. So there really wasn't anything to drill into or through. And as I've said multiple times already, I guess we'll see if it hurts us in the end. Okay, so lesson learned. Don't paint until you're done, because as you can see, we'd either have to sit and wait a long time for the paint to completely dry, or you're going to get tacky fingerprint marks all over the outer thing. But we'll repaint it once it's in place. So we've now got a couple square lines here that we've lined up. We've marked where the inner part of the lock goes, and the instructions specifically say that if these holes do not line up, that we should not worry, that it's going to be okay. So that's what we're choosing to believe for now. So even though we crossed the DroneOCan line a long time ago, this feels like a really major crossing of it now. This is where we cut the opening with the jigsaw on low speed. And you can sense the hesitation. Yeah, right now all we're really doing is cutting through the masking tape, because that's kind of just where our holes happen to line up. That's all tape. And now we're into fiberglass. And here we go.
Hold the door. I've got
Yep.
to put both hands in there.
Okay, I've got the door. It took a little bit of effort, because you can see here on our door, we were using the super fine ceramic blade recommended by the instructions for cutting fiberglass, but a bulk of this door is actually really thick plywood, and that blade was not cutting through the plywood. So we gave up and swapped to a more standard drill bit. And we now have a hole that is somewhat lock shaped, and we're about to try dry fitting it to see if it's actually going to fit. Okay, let's see. So it's not quite lining up, and it looks a little crooked, so we're going to have to do a little adjusting here to try and get things to fit. This is probably where the swearing begins, so I'm going to turn the camera off. We're switching now to the knockoff Dremel tool to try and do a little trimming here. Whoa! And we either broke or lost the cutting wheel.
And it hit me in the neck. That's not safe.
No blood. All right, second attempt with a coarser wheel this time instead of the cutting wheel. We'll kind of grind it down. Okay, so after a lot of work with the little rotary grinder tool, we think we have the opening on the door lock cut to the proper size and shape. Now the trick is we need to remove this profile from the inside of the door so that the adapter plates will fit flush. And you can see there's been a whole lot of trimming and grinding going on, but it's this profile that we need to trim out so that this section is now flat.
Almost through.
Yeah, so slowly making progress trying to get this profile off. We're going to the big guns now. Bigger cutoff wheel on the power drill. See how that works. So you can see this small section here worked perfect. That's now a perfectly smooth and flat surface. Now we just got to do that along there and under there.
Have to smooth it with the Dremel.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's good and could be good.
Not sure how to get that in the best way.
You're just going to have to come at it from the side, I guess. Just like that. Okay, I'm going to shut the camera off and hold the door. So we're bulk of the way there. You can see when we put this on, it's just a little bit of a gap there. Just needs a little trim, so we're going back to the Dremel knockoff to try and straighten that corner up. So here's where we're at now. We've got the holes cut. Masking tape has been removed. And we're just getting the butyl tape applied to the outside adapter plate. And then we're going to stick it into place. Okay, so what we're going to do here is mask off this outside adapter plate that's now been put in place. And we're going to give it another coat of paint here now that it's in position and won't get handled a whole bunch. And then we're going to take a little bit of a break and come back to this in a little bit, because we've been at it now for probably 2 or 3 hours anyway. And I want to review the installation video one more time, and because we're getting to the point now where we're actually going to be installing the lock, and we need to make sure that works. Okay, fresh off a little break here. Time to pick up where we left off and try and get this lock installed and wrap this project up. Here we go. After a little bit of confusion about the instructions, we kind of gave up on the instructions a little bit and just kind of went with what seems to logically appear. And we've got the adapter plates inside, the lock in place. It's actually working. We have the lock on the outside now. Good whole wheat progress.
Deadbolt work? Oh yeah.
Deadbolt turns.
It's exciting.
Yes, all right. So the main door lock is in place. Now we just have to adjust for the fact that, you can see here when we close it, it doesn't latch, which apparently according to the instructions is expected. So now we're back to drilling again. We have to remove these 3 rivets that are holding the original striker plate in place. Second one's not quite so easy. So with those removed, now in theory we just gently pry the old striker plate away from the fiberglass. And again, this is why we let her do this. This is gentle touch required versus my brute force method.
Got it.
Okay, so I did not film a large part of that struggle, But you can see where the old striker plate was. The problem we had was that to center the new striker plate, we were going to interfere with both this belly band rivet as well as this other rivet. And if we spin around to this side, you can see that rivet is actually holding in this support bar on the inside of the door. So we didn't want to mess with that too much, but we managed to position the striker plate. And I mean, it's really in there solid. And most importantly, look at that. It actually locks and closes, and it seems like it's working. So we still have to attach the inner and outer trim plates with some rivets, pop rivets, but functional, yeah, wow. So quite the mess we've made in getting this job done. All sorts of tools and everything on the inside, littered across the driveway, and over here all across our makeshift workbench on the back of the truck. But I think we're almost there. It's just a matter of using the new rivet gun to rivet that those adapter plates into place. Okay, well, we're drilling a... It didn't go all the way through, so that's good, I guess. Okay. I guess you almost were all the way in with the drill bit, weren't you? Yeah. All right. 2 more to drill. No, it's not going all the way through, so we just watched a quick YouTube video on how to use a rivet gun. So I think I just push that in, squeeze the handle, and that did not go well. Something happened.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Would you look at that?
Look at that little baby rivet right there.
Nice. So long skinny end in the rivet gun. I'm going to go at a diagonal pattern because that seems like the sort of thing you should do. In place. Squeeze. Then I think you might actually have to release and then squeeze a second time. Nope. Something. Okay.
Ooh, baby.
Okay. Would you look at that? Okay. That took way longer than we thought it would. It was probably about the level of difficulty I thought it would be. And we didn't have to make an extra trip to Canadian Tire, so even better. Let's take a look at the final product. So from a distance, looks pretty good with the tan. When you get up close, you can see we got a couple fingerprints on here, and when we were riveting, we scratched up the paint a little bit, but that's okay. We can touch that up, and we probably will anyway, just to kind of put the tan paint on these rivets, but that door is super solid, and it actually opens the inside. We didn't get this cut quite as smoothly as we would have liked. We'll probably just run a bead of tan silicone along there just to kind of hide that a little bit, but the lock is solid. We have a deadbolt, which is something we've never had before. And unfortunately, I guess, it no longer has that stereotypical Boler sound when it closes. It just sounds like a regular lock, but pretty damn cool.